am a temple who walks the earth. My womb is fertile for giving birth. I am a woman planted in truth. I grow my branches from sacred roots. You are the form of who you want to be. So come untethered, your soul is free. We're here to heal, we're here to thrive. We are a dream who's come alive. We light a candle, our hearts awake. Illumination for God's sake. A revelation for God's sake. An evolution for God's sake. An inspiration for God's sake. 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 For God's sake.
And so it is. Hello, Essence. Welcome to Wild Soul Medicine Radio. I'm Jody England, and this is our super show. The first time we've done something like this, we're actually doing an expanded show. We're going to be on for 90 minutes today. We may even go a little longer than that. We'll see. I'm going to try hard to keep it in 90 minutes. But as we get rolling, we may just decide we need more. And we're on this different platform today because I want to be able to interact with you. I want to be able to see who's here. I want to feel you. I want to be able to call on you and speak to you in a more fluid way than we can actually do on the other system. So this is going to feel a little more like a classroom. In fact, this is the system that we do our classes on. And so it feels a little like home to me. And so welcome. So I'm glad that you made it here, flowing with this different format and space and all of that. And I am so thrilled to be having this conversation today about soul medicine paths. And it's kind of wild. I've been actually working with the concepts that are in the soul medicine paths for 8 or 9 years. And it has been a constantly expanding and evolving body of work. And really in the last year and a half, I've known that I wanted to and was called to actually offer this in a more specific format via a class, via, more of a teaching format rather than just with my individual clients. And for various reasons, it just hasn't happened because it just keeps getting more and more depth-filled. And at this point, it really is, it's so vast and so wide that in some ways it's a little daunting to think of how can we, how can we play with offering this in a way that makes sense and is metabolizable and usable and all of that. So I just want to celebrate a couple things. I first want to celebrate that we are here, and you've heard me mention soul medicine paths in various contexts. I talk about them on the radio show a fair amount. We talked about them in Woman Come Undone at various points. And what we're going to be doing here today is just giving them a more direct look. So rather than using them as a reference on the way to something else, we're going to be specifically talking about them, what they are, how they work, how you can use them. And what I also just want you to know is this is a lifelong body of work. So you will certainly leave here with many questions. You'll want more. You'll get more. At some point later, I'll talk a little about how you can get more now. And so, just know all of that. My invitation is to really use this time as the possibility of an opening for yourself, right? So rather than solving your entire soul path for this lifetime, right, instead of unraveling all that is for you for this, whole journey, in this next hour and a half. Instead of that, see if you can just be present with what layer of the onion is ready to peel for you. So maybe it's one insight, or it's one aha, or it's one shift in your thinking or in the activities that you're currently participating in. As I said, this is such a rich meta system that I've been working it for the last 8 years, and in different forms. Even before this was a forum, I've been working it for about 13 years, and I'm not even close. I'm not even close to 20% of the way done unraveling this, right? Because there's just that much, and so it is vast, and also there are shortcuts within it. There are shortcuts that will give you an instant up-leveling of consciousness, so that suddenly you have this understanding, this meta view of your life that wasn't available before. And when that occurs, puzzle pieces start to click into place. And there is a feeling of certainty, like, oh yeah, this is who I am. This is why I do that thing, or this is why I haven't been able to unravel that particular pattern, right? And so that's what we're up to. We're kind of just beginning. And also just know that this is really the foundation of the work that we do here. It is certainly a huge piece of it. And so we will be running it through, all of our offerings and all of our, free and paid offerings forever. This is a piece of it. And so just know that there are always ways for you to get more involved and to get deeper if you want more. And that said, set your intention that you get some gems for yourself today that actually allow you to catalyze your evolutionary velocity, so that you can step right into the path and right into your power and start working with the medicine that you're here to play with. Okay? So here we are. I'm just going to tune in and see where I want to start. Okay. One more piece of housekeeping before we dive in, and that is that if you, so throughout the session today, I will be actually doing live readings for at least a couple of you. We'll see how many we can get through, where I will read your soul medicine path so you'll know exactly what you are. If you want to participate in that, you're going to need to actually call in rather than just be on the webcast, right? Because I'll need to be able to hear your voice. So if you want to participate in that way, you will need to call in. And the number to call in for today's show, different than the one we normally use, today's show, the call-in number is 425-440-5100. 425-440-5100. And then the ID number is 289-732#. 289-732#. Okay? And no, when you call in, you'll still be listening to the show the whole time. You don't have to actually speak until I call on you, but it just gives you the availability to be there when I'm ready to open the line and do a reading. Okay? So hop over here on the phone line with us. There is still some room, it looks like, if you want to join us over here. Okay. So with that, let's begin. Let's begin with I'd like to start with the biggest overarching energetic of what soul medicine paths are. So as I was doing coaching with people over the years, one of the things that always was the most disturbing to me, or felt like the biggest prevalent block that people had, and also felt like the biggest waste of time, was when people would come to me and they would be so distressed that, oh my gosh, here I am and this dynamic again. Here's this pattern, right? And they've been working with me for 3 months and they're back, and oh my gosh, they're beating themselves up because here's this issue again, right? And so as I started to dive in more and more with people, what I noticed is that there are these prevalent patterns, and they're similar from person to person, and and certain types of people have the same types of issues showing up time after time. And as I started to play with those, what I realized is there are actually what seem to be templates, right? So at the time I called them templates, essence templates. And there were five. And so it seemed like everybody had one primary way of being, and then there was typically a secondary way that also kind of fit together in there. And so I started to to show those to people and say, like, look, this is not uncommon. These things go together, and this is really just, part of how you're made. And as I deepened into my own work and my own understanding of energy and souls and, past lives and multiple, opportunities for the same lessons and things like that, what I realized is that the more accurate energetic of a soul path looks like an infinity symbol, right? It looks like a labyrinth, right? So it swirls and swirls and swirls around one end, and then it makes like an S, and it swirls and swirls and swirls around the other end, right? So we have this looping infinity path, and that's what a soul path actually looks like. So as you imagine those two ends of the path, on the one end you have what I call the medicine end of the path, right, which is where we're in the learning phase. So we at that end of the path, we end up in our wounding, and we're learning lessons, and we're navigating blocks and getting rid of illusions and all of that. And so we're kind of swirling and we're swirling, and then we reach sort of we break the surface, or we reach a precipice, and we enter the other side of the labyrinth. And on the other side, we might actually be exchanging with life in a more aligned way, or we're delivering our gifts, or we're we're feeling like, yeah, I got this. I totally got this, And so as we do that, then we expand into the next level of our becoming, right? So we become clear, like, oh, I'm supposed to do this work but on a bigger scale, or, oh, now I'm ready for a relationship, or, oh, I have some money, I need to now buy a home, or whatever that next step is for us. So we do that expansive thing, and we end up then entering the other side again. So we go back to the medicine side of the path. And what happens over there is we start having those same set of lessons again. Why? Because we're expanding. So it's not that we didn't learn the lessons the first time. It's that there are deeper and deeper cuts. There are deeper and deeper lessons available as you clear, and then go to the other side and expand, and then come back and clear, and then expand, right? There really would be no way to metabolize an instant expansion all the way through everything, right? Because then we would just go back to being a spirit. We wouldn't need the body. We wouldn't be in the human experience anymore. So the way that I see it is like we're constantly excavating these layers, and if you understand that, if you can see your soul path from this meta view, so it's no longer I'm stuck in this maze and I'm never going to get out and there's something wrong with me, right? Because when you're doing that, you're wasting time. You are not in evolutionary velocity. You're just stuck in stuckness, right? You're stuck in falseness. Because in reality, we're looping. And so there is no bad end of the labyrinth. It's all medicine. It's all good. And it's just an understanding of like, oh, I just had this big expansion, so of course I now looped back into the lesson side, right? And that's where I'm playing right now. And so I want to just share a few examples of what I mean by that, right? So as I've shared many times, I am a primary great mother. That's the main archetype that I am. And then my secondary archetype is warrior, right? And so when I first started learning about energy and really diving into my, my own path and all of that many years ago, 12, 13 years ago, one of the pieces on the Great Mother path is not enough, right? So feeling like there's not enough, like I'm not enough, like there's not enough in the world, there's not enough money, there's not enough time, not enough whatever. And so when I first started working with that, my life was in a very different place, and I really didn't have enough money, and I was really in a lot of survival mode. And, and I wasn't receiving really any support from anyone, including my husband. And I had a new business, and I wasn't selling enough, right? So everything was intense. and on red alert. So I did my clearing, I did my work, I started to wind out of that. I freed myself into a better financial situation, into a less stressful business and life situation, and it was beautiful, right? And then, the universe kept pushing for like, okay, next level, and so I stepped out into offering, my energy evolution, which was the next company that came after that. And so I started putting myself out more authentically, like I do some energy work. So I'm just going to say that I do a little energy work, but I wasn't fully, I didn't say I was psychic or any of that stuff. And so, I would create these programs, and they were better programs than ever before and great content, and I would offer them, but no one would come. Right? So I was expending a ton of energy, but there weren't enough clients. And my perspective was like, nobody gets me. There just aren't enough enlightened people in the world, right? So that's not a conversation I could have had before, right? So before, when I was in such breakdown, I just had to survive at that point. And then when I circle back now, it's like, okay, great. So let's clear that. Let's clear all of those blocks, which are still a variation on the same theme. Right? So I clear that. I start then looping into the more gift side where I do start getting clients, and I start making a really good living, and I have a very full coaching practice, right? And then it's like, great, okay, time for more expansion. Loop back into the other side. Expansion looks like healing my relationship with the divine. But I'm not enough. Who am I to be loved by the divine? I don't have enough training. I don't have a spiritual advisor. I don't have a spiritual leader. Do you see what I mean? So there's always a next cut at it. And sometimes when I tell people that initially, they get really depressed because we're all sold this bill of goods in the online community and in the self-help community that somehow we're going to take this course and we're going to be fixed, right? We're going to be done in just 6 short months, and then you'll have a 6-figure a year business, and then you're going to be perfect, right? And in reality, there is no finish line. And that's not because we always have to be in struggle. It's because there is no finish line. It's an infinity symbol, and it's not an infinity symbol by accident. It's an infinity symbol because we are infinite. We have infinite opportunities to travel and to come back as these souls having this experience, right? And so what you'll find as you learn your soul path, if you do any past life work, what you'll start to see is you've had this same set of issues in your past lives as well. The same stuff you're up to here you've had before, and usually in our past lives it was much more violent and dramatic and scary than it is now. So we're really blessed to be in the life now where it feels to me many of us are coming to a culmination of our lifetime. So we're actually putting together all of the pieces we've had by living the different sides of the coin with the things that we're exploring. And now we're actually getting to put those pieces together so we can see the meta view of what our soul is up to while we're still in the life, and that's kind of the whole point. This is where heaven and earth meet, when we can start to understand ourselves from this level, from the inside. All right? So what's beautiful about soul paths is not only does it up-level you and give you, like for me it feels like a compass. So anytime I'm triggered, instead of losing my center and being like, how do I fix this? Where do I go? The feeling in me is, of course, here's this thing, right? Because I just had an up level, or or I'm tired, or I'm out of sorts, or I'm not in balance. So of course, here's this thing showing up. And then, usually I choose to deal with it, right? I choose to heal it with the tools that I have. But sometimes I choose to wallow in it because I'm still a human. And even when that happens, I am infinitely more powerful because I know that I'm choosing it. So if I'm triggered at my husband and I'm deciding in that moment not to clear it because I really just want to ruminate on how he's not enough for me, right, or he's not supporting me or whatever, I know that that's a bullshit story. I know I'm choosing it in the moment, and I know exactly where it comes from and what to do when I'm ready. So it is just this beautiful navigational tool for holding your center so that you don't get lost in the maze of the illusion of this life that you're in as a human, right? The other thing that's beautiful about understanding soul paths is it gives you a whole different understanding for the other humans in your life because they're on soul paths too. So when you can understand what other people's paths are, you can start to relate to one another as flavors, right? So one of the things I always say about soul paths is it's kind of like being a flavor of ice cream, right? There is no path that's better than another path, and everybody thinks that. When they learn their path, they think like, oh, I'd rather be that one because that sounds nicer or better or different, right? But they all have their pros and cons. They all have their shadow and their light, and there's nothing inherently good or bad of any of them. And so it's just like being a flavor of ice cream. You're either chocolate, strawberry, or vanilla, and we don't make strawberry wrong for not tasting more like chocolate. It's like, of course it tastes like strawberry. It's strawberry. It's pink, and it has, a fruit in it, and so therefore it's strawberry. And that's how you want to hold this information about your soul path. So, if there's an archetype that you wish you were, or if there's an energetic that you wish you had, or whatever, just realize it's not about that. It's about being what you are so that you can work the energetic of that so that you can become more free. That's it. So what's beautiful is, like in my household, of course, everyone knows their archetype. Everybody knows their path, and we know each other's. And so when we find ourselves in a disagreement, we don't have to take it personally because we can then all step into the meta view of like, oh, that's Aiden being his, warrior right now. So it feels like he's fighting us, but actually he's just fighting to fight, right? And as we start to identify that, then he realizes that's what he's doing, and then he can step out of it, So it gives you this instant ability to have compassion for the people in your life so that you can see they're just doing it because that's their flavor. It's not that they're doing it to spite you or because they're not, awake or aware or whatever. It's like it's really real for them. It's as real for them what their path is it is for you and what yours is, right? So we can all give each other a little bit more of a break, and then we're constantly helping each other step into the fuller version of ourselves. So when somebody's lost in the shadow of their path, we can gently bring them back to, that sounds like you're actually in your, you're in your shadow right now, and here's what that looks like, and we also know how to support it. So again, there's this infinite amount of work that can happen from knowing and understanding these pieces. So I think what will serve, I spoke about each of the paths last week, but I'm just going to cover them again a little more in depth, and then we'll take a caller, okay? So the first soul medicine path is the path of the shapeshifter, all right? And I'm just going to give you some honestly, I don't actually have this written down. I can feel you asking the questions. Like, it'd be nice if she'd give a handout on this. And I don't actually, because I do it in the energy so much, I haven't taken the time to specifically write all this down. But that will happen. That will happen in one of the classes that we're offering for sure. So for now, you're welcome to just take notes. And also there will be a recording of this session, so you can come back and catch up if you miss any. I realize that I'm talking really fast, and that's just because I want to cover as much as I can for you. So the shapeshifter path is each one of these paths has a core energetic. And the core energetic is really how is this soul relating to the world? And it's a shadowy aspect, right? So it's like, what is this? What is the tamed aspect of this, right? Like, how does this person show up when she's unconscious? And so we have the core energetic, and then we have the unraveling of the energetic, which is essentially what needs to shift in the energy flow for her to be back in alignment, okay? So I want to just name those because that feels to me like that's the most fundamental level where you can work with these. So the core energetic for a shapeshifter is she has open, permeable, energetic boundaries. So what that looks like is she is very good at chameleoning in with other people. So she aligns with them very easily. She feels what they're feeling. She tends to be the emotional hub of the people she knows. Extremely relational, almost exclusively relational. You will seldom find a shapeshifter not in relationship, right? So they often go from one relationship to another. And yeah, so the open boundaries, so there's a light and a shadow to that energetic, right? So the light is she can easily connect with other people, and she can feel what they're feeling, and she's usually a great emotional ally for people who are in drama. In fact, she may find herself as a drama magnet, where there are people in her life who are sick or are needing her help, or they're having drama, and then she becomes the caretaker of the people in drama. Okay? And so what the unraveling is for the shapeshifter is for her to learn to be conscious and choiceful about when she's opening her boundaries, and to find a home for herself. So she's finding a home inside of herself. And she maintains this home and she creates this home, and so she can feel herself in her own life rather than only knowing herself through her relationships with other people. Okay? Now, one other thing I want to say is one of the most difficult things is identifying your own soul path. A couple of reasons for this. One, because the main way of identifying it is through your wounding, and most people are not very insightful about their own wounding. So everybody chooses an aspect of something they wish they were more of, right? So like in this crowd that listens to the radio show, everybody wants to be the mystic because, we're all interested in energy and we assume that must be what we are. So the invitation here is to listen more through that. So it's not about what you want to be, but just in trying on, in your most tender places, like almost especially if I say something and you wish that wasn't true, or you're like, that's not me, take another look because it's probably you. And again, remembering just that there is a positive side to all of this. So, I just want you to kind of know that. And we're playing with trying to create some instrument that would be like a quiz that you could take and actually identify yours, but we're having a hard time finding one that works because nobody self-reports very accurately. So right now, the most accurate way we can do it is to do it for you one-on-one, where we can use our energy abilities to do that. And so in the meantime, just listen to all of them and be open as you continue to learn more and more about them to settling in on what yours is. All right? And that said, you may notice some aspects of this in your life, right? So we all are in a relationship. So it doesn't mean if you're in a relationship that you are a shapeshifter. It's, are you primarily always in relationship? Do you find yourself letting the bigger energy win, or not having preferences so that you can get along, like going along to get along? That would be an aspect of a shapeshifter. Okay? Okay, so let's talk about the next one. The next one is the Great Mother. And the Great Mother is my primary one. Great Mothers, the core energetic is more energy out than in, right? So what that looks like is they tend to be the clan leaders. So that's why they're Great Mother, not as in we are great mothers of our children necessarily, but more about being like charismatic leaders. We tend to be the CEOs of companies, brilliant coaches, nurses, therapists. We care about other people, and we find ourselves in leadership positions of caring for other people. What that can look like in a life is nurturing others, but not nurturing ourselves. So great mothers are famous for being burned out, for being the busiest people you know, for being overwhelmed. There's a lot of martyr energy. This is all in the shadow. And we tend to work really hard and often not have a reward, usually not have a reward, unless you've really done some work to start unraveling your path. So when I was in the early stages of my evolution, that's when I would do all of this work to create this beautiful content and have 5 people show up for my class, right? And that's because my energetic was more energy out than in. And it's only now that I've been able to unravel that in this business realm. But it took beginning on, even the personal realm. Can I let any energy in? Can I feel love, right? So we tend to be, in our relationships, we're the ones that are doing the most work and doing the most thinking and doing the most evolving, right? It's in everything. It is under every single thing that you do, this core energetic. The unraveling of that core energetic for the Great Mother is learning to create even energetic exchanges. So, when I talk about these things flowing through everything, remember the radio show last week? So, of course, I'm tuned into energetic exchange, which does happen to be an accurate way for all of us to heal our money stories. And it's part of my soul path, right? So it's like the gifts that come from our path are also part of the shadow. So I'm a student of energetic exchange because that's what my soul is here to learn about, right? And then it happens to flow into my work in this really brilliant way. So we're riding all of it. We're embracing all of it. We can't learn. We can't get into that learning side of the infinity loop if we don't do the medicine side. Do you see? It's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful, complete system. So even energetic exchanges, that means opening ourselves to letting energy in. And it can be energies of all kinds, feeling love, allowing support in, having people say yes to us, letting people do things for us, having people show up for our offerings and our classes, having our bosses appreciate us or promote us, right? So those are all some of the beginning ways that we can start to unravel that. Learning to metabolize our yes, right? So instead of taking 15 classes at once, learn, because that's a lot of energy out, right? And then you can't actually receive the energy in from any of the classes because you're bringing so much into your space. So learning to, what am I going to say? The analogy I always give is imagining that there's a faucet, right? That there's a faucet in the center of you, but it's set on wide open, right? And we forget as great mothers that we're the ones with the hand on the faucet. So if we want to slow it down, we just have to energetically turn back a little bit. We just have to turn it down some. So that might mean one of the things I used to do as a coach is I would, especially as I was starting to get busy with my clients, so I'd have a new client get referred to me. My schedule would be jam-packed full. And instead of saying I don't actually have an opening until next week, I would try to cram them in, right? And so then I perpetually had an overfull schedule, which had me giving a lot more energy out than in because I couldn't even get any lunch and I couldn't take a breath and I couldn't get a rest, And so as I was shifting my pattern, I just learned to say, I don't actually have a spot right now, but I could get you in the end of next week, And for a great mother, like that can feel like a giant shift in energy. That can feel like a very hard thing to do. So, it can happen on the thinking and doing level, but what's underneath that is actually the energetic. What is it in my system that has me wired to have this energy pouring out? That's where we get into the subconscious, right? So I'm going to get back to the other path, but I just want to say something about that. So I spoke to somebody the other day. We were talking about her soul path, and like she's been on this evolutionary path for a really long time, and she was frustrated because she's like, I've done this work, I've done all of this, like I know I'm a mystic and I'm supposed to embody myself, and I've done all this embodiment work, right? We heard that on Woman Come Undone too. And so the frustration is, why is it not shifting? Well, one piece is it doesn't ever shift all the way, right, because there's deeper levels. The main reason, though, is most people are working at this from the level of the mind. And these are soul paths. They're not happening in the mind. Your soul is not your mind, right? So the only way to deal with supporting your soul is to be able to speak the language of the soul, which is energy, right? Souls are made up of energy. So that's why in this system there is a core energetic and an unraveling of the energetic, because we can't think our way out of these patterns, right? If we could, we would have all done that a long time ago, because we're very smart, intelligent women who know what we need to be doing. And so it takes a system that can actually allow you to see not only what the energetic is, but there's so much packed into the energy itself. Like there's all kinds of subconscious programming that has happened throughout your life to support the energetic being the way it is. So an example is in my core wounding in this lifetime, there was that moment where I had peed and pooped my pants, and my grandmother was vomiting her negativity into me, right? And I just swallowed up. I swallowed up all of the lineages of the pain of the past, right? And it looked like this dark cloud that it just came into me. And so because of that, my energy system was like, okay, never do that again. All the energy has to go out. In order to be safe, I have to be the one giving the energy. I can't let any come in. Do you see? And then, throughout my life, hundreds of thousands of experiences of times when every time I would try to let energy in, I would get disappointed, or I would get hurt, or I would get fooled, or, whatever my story was about that. And so all of that stuff is stacked in there against the door of you unraveling the energetic. Let me say that again. All of that stuff that you have accumulated over the years is stacked against the door of you unraveling the core energetic. So this is not small-time work. It's not as simple as you're going to learn this system and then you're immediately going to, be free, right? What we came here to do was to get down and dirty with those boxes and to say oh, well, what is that box again? And is that true? And what does that mean to me? And then clear the energy out so that you can move more and more freely through the loop, right? Through the infinity labyrinth of your soul path. All right? So let's return now to the archetype. So the third soul path is the warrior path, which is my secondary one. The warrior path, the core energetic is, there's kind of two of them. So one is this energetic fortress, keeping others at arm's length. So there's a lot of being locked down, protected, and part of that is related to the feeling of a fall from grace, right? That we're not connected to divinity, and so the world is not safe. And so we have to fight. We have to fight in order to survive. And so what that ends up looking like is creating battles where we're fighting. We're fighting life. We're fighting our health. We're fighting our money. We're fighting our partners. We're fighting our jobs. You name it, we can find a fight with it. And for the warrior, the unraveling of the energetic is learning to flow, learning to find grace and safety and allow that to be part of our system so that we can flow in those areas between. Instead of warriors tend to be very polarized, right? So we live in the black and white. It's right or wrong. We're all about control and lack of trust, afraid we're going to get betrayed. So we're slow to adopt. We're skeptical. We're harsh. We can be hard and cutting, bitter. Those are all the shadows of the warrior. Nobody likes to claim the warrior, right? Nobody likes to claim it, especially warriors, because we already think there's something super wrong with us because we fell from grace, right? And there's so much light in the warriors. What I find is all of the warriors that I've worked with have ended up being longtime servants of the divine, and so how I've stated in my soul path is when I've gone in to search for repairing this relationship with divinity, I find that I am, I am one of the biggest servants of God. And I came in this lifetime to experience being out of relationship, right? Instead of having this like instant trust, I'm learning another aspect of trust by being completely out of trust with Source, right? So that I can feel the difference. I can discern. As a soul, everything is just clear and blissful, and we have everything we want and need. But then we come here as humans so we can feel the opposite, so that we can feel the contrast and know ourselves deeper, know the divine in a deeper way than we can know it when all is aligned, right? And so we're making our way back. We're unraveling that. We're finding that flow where really we're surrendering and allowing Source to literally flow through us as us. And there's every kind of level of that we will start to play with. So at the beginning, it's like, just stop fighting. Like, can you stop fighting anything? Can you start saying yes? Where can you begin to trust even a little? And what would trust look like and feel like in your system? How can you introduce safety? And there's a difference between the warrior and the mystic, right? So warriors do fundamentally believe the world is not safe, but they're not tapped into that because their primary mode of interaction is fight. So I actually have a really hard time registering fear because I don't like fear. So I just end up being angry a lot. So warriors tend to be hot, fiery. They can easily cut people off or turn on a dime. And whereas mystics tend to be more just like flighty afraid. Flighty as in like the world is mean and that person is terrorizing me with their eyes. The warrior would be like, fuck you in your scary eyes, right? Like, I would stare you down. So it's a little different. They're based on the same wound, similar wound, the world is not safe, but a different reaction, right? So these things are very subtle, but hopefully will help you kind of discern what you are. So let's move on to the heroine. So the heroine soul path, the core energetic for this is they cultivate an external facade for the benefit of others, leaving an internal void of the self, right? So heroines are in service of everyone else. There's a lot of similarities between the shapeshifter and the heroine, so sometimes those two can be a little dicey to sort out. Some of the differences relate to, so the shapeshifter tends to have really permeable energetic boundaries, so they will tend to, they might run late, especially if they're with someone and they're having a great conversation. It would be hard for them to separate, and so they would hang out longer. They would find themselves thinking about that person, after they weren't in conversation anymore. The heroine is all about appropriate. So they do what they're supposed to do. So manners are important to them. Rules are important to them. They would want to be on time. If they had a next appointment, they would want to honor that so the other person didn't feel let down. They tend to be very loyal. They're good friends. They're sunshiny, usually. They are great at accountabilities. Usually shapeshifters don't love accountabilities, but that can change depending on what they're paired with, right? Because they're shapeshifters. And heroines are really into their body. So it doesn't mean you necessarily have a good body, but they relate to the physical realm a lot more than the spiritual and psychological. So, lots of eating disorders in heroines, lots of people who are personal trainers, nutritional coaches, very interested in how the body works, and having that be the place where they resonate because they can see it and feel it, and so they want it to be well. They also are really concerned with aging, so they don't like aging or feeling like things are running out of usefulness. So they often, are trying to stay youthful and stay healthy looking and young, and they get quite disturbed by things that seem to be breaking down, like from their body or systems or things that are coming to an end or near a completion. Those can be difficult for them too. So the unraveling of the energetic for the heroine is bringing this beautiful sunshiny interior all the way through to the outside, right? So they get in touch with, they're really here to answer the question, who am I? Who am I? What is my point? And one of the shadows of the heroine is when because they're so disconnected from themselves, because they do everything for everyone else. And let me just clarify that. They do it in a different way than great mothers. So great mothers would do it in a busy, harried, martyred way. Heroines would do it in a sunshiny, nice, selfless kind of a way. All right? And the problem with that, the shadow of even that, is that they're not connected to themselves or why they're doing what they're doing. And so they tend to go into what I call existential angst, where they have varying degrees of what can look like depression, of like, what is my point? Why am I doing this? They're often in jobs they hate, that don't serve them, that they know is not really who they are, but they stay because it's good pay, or because they don't know what they would do instead, or nothing better has come along. So they're kind of living this good-looking / hollow life, and the longing is to actually be connected with self. And so unraveling that core energetic is, for a heroine, is really turning inward. Like, how can you serve yourself and be okay with the shadow? Like, they hate conflict, they hate darkness, so they don't like to turn inward. They don't want to see what's wrong. They don't want to be with, anything painful about themselves or others. And it's learning to embrace all of it so that there is a cohesive whole that's authentic and real and true, and then letting that be the fuel for what ends up getting expressed externally, right? Gosh, let's take a breath. Do you feel how much there is here? I'm talking about, like, I'm not even at 5% of what's available in this information. I mean, there's that much here. It's so good. So let's go to the mystic. So that's our fifth and final one, the path of the mystic. And so the core energetic of a mystic is their energy is hovering above the physical world. So they avoid being down and in. So what that often looks like for a mystic is they tend to be kind of, quote, out there. They might be spacey, or they're very connected to, energies and up, like they know their guides, and they, love the divine, and, they go to all of the weird festivals and stuff like that, right? And I know that in this crowd we all kind of do that stuff, so that's where it gets a little tricky. But for mystics, it's much more about, like, that is their core identification. It's not something they've come to throughout their life. That's where they've always been the most home. And so the flip side of that, the shadow, is that they tend to be seldom in their bodies. So because they can't really feel their bodies, or they're not connected to them, they find it hard to be in the world. And so, at its most extreme, they might live off the grid. They might live in a place where there aren't many people, or spend a lot of time in nature because that's where they feel the most clear. They are gentle souls. They are not warriors, right? So I'm a great mother warrior, and I also love being out in nature because that's where clear energy is. But if somebody looked at me cross-eyed, I would fight them, right, as opposed to run from them. And mystics are highly sensitive. So sensitive as in, if they got within 50 feet of someone who was having a bad day, they'd be like, I feel like their energy is attacking me. There can be some kind of funny, they wouldn't feel funny to the mystic, but, funny situations. I've coached mystics who have, like, they own a dog that bites them, or they have a child that's violent to them, so that their world literally feels scary. Like, they feel this existential terror of, if I'm here, I'm going to be annihilated. And so how they relate to their physical bodies is their bodies tend to be weaker. So they might have a frail body, as in like super skinny or willowy, or they might treat their body really harshly because they don't really feel it, right? So also some eating disorders in this group, or over-exercising or under-eating or working really hard off the grid, because it's that kind of like the body is responsible for my separation from source, which is where I really want to be, And so the unraveling of that energetic for the mystic is to learn to become a conduit. So as much as they want to escape this life and they feel like it's a mistake that they're here, right? They want to go back where they came from. The unraveling of it is to learn to open the bottom so that they actually become a conduit of above and below. So they're here to bring all of that beautiful up energy and information down into the human realm. And that has to happen through their physical body and through them embodying their soul actually here, right? And so those are the ones we talked about last time, where they often have security issues, as in like no money, difficult relationships, not a stable living situation. That would be its most its most tamed expression, right? And then if you've done some work, you might have started to clear some of those areas. So what the mystic is playing with is actually the other end of the spectrum, is rooting and grounding and making friends with their humanness. All right? So let's just take a breath there. So much good stuff. Yeah, and I just want to say again, if you're feeling any shame about what path you think you are, it's hard for me to talk about them because I don't hold stories about anything. It's hard for me to talk about them without their maybe seeming like really direct or kind of harsh in a way, but just know that all of it is a story, so none of it's real. You're not actually one thing or another. This is just the illusion of how it shows up, right? So there's no reason for shame about any of it. It's more like writing down your GPS coordinates, right? Like, oh, okay, I'm here, In the same way you would have no judgment about the numbers that are there. All of the things I've just said are just like that. They just happen to be the flavor of that particular path. So you can just let go of any of that old programming around, not being perfect or not having it figured out or doing it wrong, and really slide into of courseness. Right? Of course that's why I'm doing that. Of course that's why my life has looked like it has. Of course that's why I'm in the struggle I'm in with money or my relationship or my home or whatever, because that's my flavor, right? And now I know what I want to do if I want to amp up my flavor, right? So what I'd like to do is I'd like to type a couple people here, and then we'll see if we have some time to maybe do some questions. So if you would like to have me read your soul medicine path, and I would request that you only ask this if you don't already know it. If you haven't taken a class with me and if you already know what you are, let's give some other people an opportunity to learn. So if you are interested, do a *2 on your telephone, and that will let me know who is ready. Oh, I love it. Look at all of you. Like, yes, yes, me. All right, so I'm just going to energetically tune in here, and I am going to go with it looks like Janet. So this is Janet, last 4 digits 8904. And if you're muted on your end, it's *6 to unmute.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Hi.
Hi, Jody.
How are you?
Oh, just breathing because I just knew I was going to get called.
I love it. I was in your tractor beam, or vice versa.
Really? For real?
Well, for real. For real. So I'd love to, I want to do this, and I want to just, let me just see how I want to do it first. I want to hear from you. So tell me about an area in your life right now where you are struggling.
Just the one word comes to my mind, heretic.
Tell me about that.
I grew up really, really Catholic, and is in my history and my blood and my family. And I always just have this fear of, like, where my spirit is calling me and where I feel like God is leading me, that it's going to be wrong and I'm going to burn in hell. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how does that show up in your life? So even with all of that facing you, you're not Catholic, right?
I'm Christian. I'm not Catholic.
Yeah, so what's your story about? So I'm asking you this because I want other people to hear, like, how the story sits for you, how it shows up and manifests in your life, because it'll help. It'll help them have a window in too. So how do you reconcile this ongoing fear of burning in hell with the path that you continue to take?
Oh, my gosh. I'm working that out still, but let me see. My whole theme for my business and everything is anchored, anchoring, rooting, and being grounded in the truth that, just continuing to come back to the truth that I am in, like, God is in me and I am in God, and, like, that God has me. I'm not going to burn in hell. That hell may not even be, like, this illusion or something. Like, I have to continuously root and ground and anchor myself back into this truth, and breathe through it. That's how I'm working through it right now. I don't know if that's what you're asking.
Love it.
It shows
and what's
up
the word? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it shows up when different aspects of, like, I feel like my gifting or where I feel like God is leading me and teaching me, it's scary for me to go or to follow that lead because there's just so much fundamental or legalistic viewpoints or words that I hear, like, hovering over me. And so I always have this fear of, like, what if they're right? What if I'm wrong? But my whole life is all about, no, my whole path is, like, God is in me and through me, and I'm teaching that for others to be able to do that and follow that in their life and not have to worry about these other voices. And so that's just, like, I guess part of my path was, like, always anchoring back into that truth. Yeah.
Beautiful. So one more question for you. What is the work that you do in the world?
That, I guess, helping people align and be rooted and grounded, align with that, what their truth is, and to express that in the world without fear.
So you're a coach.
Yes, I'm a spiritual lifestyle coach.
Beautiful. Okay, love it. Love it. So one of the other things I want to just say is that as you work your path, it becomes harder and harder to tell what someone is, right? Because that's the point. So what we're really doing is we're unraveling the tameness. And so as we start to do that, like whenever somebody gives me the Enneagram test, right? Like they always say, like, well, tell us what you did when you were 18, because it's like, because really I'm sort of all of the types now because I'm really open. And so the soul paths are the same way, and they're always there. The traces are always there. So I have you as a great mother, same as me. You're a primary great mother, secondary warrior.
Oh, gosh.
Is that what you feel?
I didn't know. I was like, am I a mystic or am I a great mother? I was kind of like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Here's why I say that. One, so there's also some sort of alchemical little combination things that happen when you put a couple of them together in a certain way. So you're way too strong for a mystic, right? So mystics tend to be a little more flighty, like it's harder for them to start a business or to stay in the business, right? Because that takes a fair amount of, like, stick-to-itiveness. And what I feel, so the coaching, right, that lends itself to Great Mother, and I can feel the love in your heart and, like, the nurturing. And the combination of the Great Mother and the warrior together actually create this really interesting mix of like being a heretic, of being a truth teller, an integrity holder, a smeller of bullshit, right? And a holder of the line of what isn't true. Totally.
Yeah.
So funny that you said that. I actually was just meditating this morning on I did some Facebook ads, and so every time I do that, I end up getting some like Christian people who post something about the Bible or how I'm going to go to hell because of what I'm doing, and of course that's a reflection of my mother, right? So it's a whole thing. So I was triggered by that, and I was meditating on it this morning, like, what is that again, you know? And I was just reflecting on that as part of my path, that you know, the whole time I was raised in the church, I could always feel the dissonance between, you know, what was the motions of what were happening and the energetic disconnect of what was actually possible. And for myself, I could feel that I wanted to be connected to God, but I wasn't connected with God by doing the ritual, right, or sitting in the pew or whatever was being said would get me there. And there was a yearning. There was a yearning in me, like I know that I'm a servant of the divine, but I can't get there through this.
Right.
Right? Yeah. So it's like you're the great mother warrior, which is like, you know, you're nurturing these people back to where they need to go, but you're also this fierce stand for but that's not true. Right? Yeah. Oof. So how does that feel to you?
You know, when I heard you talk about Great Mother, I think about my mom and the martyr, and I get so mad at that because it's like I don't want to be the martyr.
Yeah,
I hate that energy.
I love it. Yeah,
I'm just kind of thinking like how that combines with the warrior kind of is it interesting what that does to the martyr piece. I guess that's where I'm kind of curious.
I love that, and thanks for speaking to that, right? Because this is the troublesome thing about soul paths is how to get people to receive them without the shame that comes along, and even the Great Mother, right? So most of us Great Mother archetypes are actual mothers, and most of us think we're really shitty mothers, right? Because we're really driven and we're busy, so we're not actually very present with our children. So it's this whole, you know, dichotomy of, dissonance. But, you know, here's what I would say about the martyr. So there's light and shadow. So in past lives, you have been an actual martyr. You know, Joan of Arc was the same soul path as we are. And there are many times in this lifetime where I've been the champion of the underdog and I have lost. I've put myself in the losing battle, right? And that was the mode. So you got to know something about being a martyr in order to be a champion for something successfully. This is a lifetime where we don't have to die for it.
Yeah. You know, I wrote next to each other burnout/martyr, and it's just like giving me that picture of like, holy crap, you know, I always feel like I'm going to burn. And one time one of my mentors was like saying something, somebody wanted to express something about their truth, and she was like, don't worry, there will be no burnings at the stake here. And I was just like laughing because that's how I feel sometimes. Like if I say something, like there's like this fear of this burning in hell or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay,
totally.
maybe that was something that's in my bloodline or something like that.
Well, it is. It's for sure there. And it's also in the, you know, that combination is uniquely qualified to be discerning, like, what is truth. So we are the integrity holders, and that means, you know, we don't trust truth. So we're constantly questioning, like, well, how do you know that's truth? And then how can we be sure? And then, you know, and we need that if we're going to be questioning a paradigm, right? So so it's like we need that, and we have to balance it. So if we don't balance it, we end up becoming martyrs for causes that don't work and for people who don't go where we want them, and for, you know, letting the man, you know, I say the man, like the system, you know, letting the system beat us. And so it's like, how do we do our work in a way that that allows us to champion something not out of reaction, but in alignment? Yeah, so it's you need all of the pieces. You can't say like, oh, I just want to be a great mother with no martyr, but that's all part of it. You know, it's just really the flip side of the exact same coin.
Wow. love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, darling. Beautiful. All right, so I'm going to close your line, and let's do another one. That was fun. So let me just feel. Oh, right when I was going to click it, it just switched down. Okay, hold on. Okay, so I have Margie from Colorado. Last numbers are 5274.
Oh.
Are you there? Oh, shoot. You were open, now you're closed again. There we are. I can hear you. Okay, I open you and you close. Okay, so no buttons. Hold on one second. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Hello? I can hear
There
you.
we are. Hi.
Yes, hi. My name is Erin, though. It's not Margie. I don't know.
Oh, interesting. Well, whoever had your phone number before is who it looks like. So,
okay.
Perfect. So, hi, Erin. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you. Hi. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
It's really great to be here.
Oh, I know. I'm so excited too. It's really fun to get to do this. So let's dive in. I'd love to have you just tell me about an area of your life where you're struggling.
Oh, okay. There's a big piece around money and abundance, I've been struggling with this for really a very long time. But even deeper than that, and I guess maybe this is true of most people, but I've been coming up against the fact that it's really tied into my own value and self-worth. And so I feel like I have this like sort of poverty or lack mindset, but a lot of it is not just money. It's a lot about who I am and what I'm doing in the world and my value in the world.
Got it. So what is your work in the world?
I am a neurologist, so I do body work. And I also I'm training to do craniosacral therapy, so it's another type of really subtle body work that touches in more to the energetic and spiritual, mental and emotional aspects of working with people. And I've been struggling with actually making that a viable way of working for me in the world and supporting myself in the world.
Beautiful. All right, let me just check one more thing. Yeah. All right, darling. So what I get for you is mystic.
Interesting.
Yeah. I feel mystic, and I feel it's like the body work that you do is sort of how you're trying to figure out the puzzle, right? Like if I can get other people in their bodies, or I can understand how these things work, or if I can, you know, watch other people, you know, be in safety in their body, maybe that will be a bridge for me. Does that resonate?
Yeah. Strangely, yes. When you were saying, you know, everybody wants to be a mystic, I was like, I don't want to be a mystic, you know, because I
know,
don't.
Right?
But
that's so good.
But at the same time, I have really struggled with this, what, you know, in work I've done with other people, what I call divine homesickness, and feeling like I just don't fit in this world. And that I really struggle in a lot of ways. So that definitely resonates. But I don't know that that's something that I really want to call myself, or I don't know. And then, like, if I have that information, what do I do with that information? You know, like, great. So that is, if that's what my soul signature or medicine is or whatever, how then do I work with that? I don't know.
Love it. Love it. So that work, the divine homesickness work, that's your work. That is your soul medicine. It's what you're here to help people with. I feel that so strongly. And you know, all of our wounding is around the thing we're here to do, right? So you know, it's like you can't really midwife people, you know, out of their homesickness if you haven't experienced it and figured out what is the way home, right?
Right.
And
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just want to just name another. This is an aside, but really fun for those listening. These soul paths go into every single thing you do, every single thing. So, how you experience technology, how who you're married to or not, like all of that. So the little flightiness there of like when I chose Erin and then she was like unmuting as I was muting, right? That kind of weird disconnect of like, are we here? Are we here? Right? That's totally a mystic response.
I have the worst thing with technology. It's ridiculous. My 65-year-old mother is better with technology than I am.
Totally, right?
So,
because technology has a certain density to it, and so mystics are attracted to everything light and unencumbered. And technology feels like a metallic gateway into like, non-etheric.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a couple pieces. So first of all, the first piece I want to just give you is to know that you're not doing the path wrong. So you came here. It's not like, so what mystics feel like is somehow I missed the chute, right? Like I came down the wrong tunnel, or I wasn't supposed to actually stay this long, or it was supposed to be a fun journey, but now I'm stuck in this like crazy place with mean people, So what I want you to know is there is no mistake. This is what you signed up for. And this painful part is all the illusion. So you signed up to have this illusion part so that you can find your way back to the beautiful light being that you still are. You still are, and you're just experiencing it here in this different dimension,
Right, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So no mistake.
I just, the human part of me some part of me wonders, how long will I have to be in this illusory part before I get to the part where I reconnect with that and I recognize it and I own the fact that, yes, I did sign up for this and yes, I've gone through this and I am ready to help other people find their way home.
And I just want to, thank you for asking.
This dark night of the soul,
Yes. So let me just say this. So thank you for asking that. And the wound is even in that question, right? Because what's really under it is, how long do I have to do this painful human thing before I can go to the easy, more like a light person? Right? So the answer is, the journey gets to stop being hard when you wake up and swan dive into being human. Right? So the thing that you are most terrified of, that is the barrier. Right? Yeah. And it's a process. It is a process. So piece one is you called in, being here on this call, and getting the wake up that you are a mystic and that there's not a mistake. And so now you can begin actually playing with coming down and in, right? And it can be joyful, it can be easy, it can be beautiful, but you're going to have to start working at it at a subconscious level. So, it can't happen in the level of the mind because, it's not a mind thing. It's the soul incarnation
my
thing.
My brain is one of my biggest enemies for sure.
Yeah, and it can be our ally, but, it becomes our ally more when we start to move, the stuff that's in the way of that. So, so I want to just offer that, and also to say, just reminding everyone along with you, there is no finish line. So you're going to have incarnational issues your whole life, and those will all be serving you being even more down and in, even more I don't know if you listened to Woman Come Undone, but there were several beautiful mystics on there who do embodiment work, who teach embodiment, who are more embodied than most humans on the planet, and that's still what's up for them. You know what I mean? So because they came here to fully understand spirit in a human body. What does that mean? What does it look like? How can divinity come through in this realm, in this physicality, right? So it's, you love divinity so much, you wanted to experience it in this other way too.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what you're up to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm just really compelled. This poem is wanting to be read to you, and I feel like it's specifically for you, but it's also for everyone as we're in this moment of our awakening, to this thing that is our soul path. This is not small, and I think all of us have our own versions of waking up to this reality and feeling like, I've done it wrong, or I fell from grace, or I'm the martyr this time, or I didn't protect my boundaries, or like whatever it is, and we're all doing it exactly right. And then we decided at this moment that we would wake up and we would start learning how to navigate this adventure that we came to be on, right? So this poem that wants to be shared for you and for everyone who's listening is What to Remember When Waking. It's by David White. Do you know this one?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to speak it to your soul.
Thank you.
That first hardly noticed moment in which you wake, coming back to this life from the other, more secret, movable, and frighteningly honest world where everything began. There is a small opening into the new day, which closes the moment you begin your plans. What you can plan is too small for you to live. What you can live wholeheartedly will make plans enough for the vitality hidden in your sleep. To be human is to become visible, while carrying what is hidden as a gift to others. To remember the other world in this world is to live in your true inheritance. You are not a troubled guest on this earth. You are not an accident amidst other accidents. You were invited from another and greater night than the one from which you have just emerged. Now, looking through the slanting light of the morning window toward the mountain presence of everything that can be, what urgency calls you to your one love? What shape waits in the seed of you to grow and spread its branches against a future sky? Is it waiting in the fertile sea, in the trees beyond the house, in the life you can imagine for yourself, in the open and lovely white page on the writing desk?
Thank you. I've heard it before, and it's never spoken to me in quite that way. So, thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks, my love.
Thanks.
Okay. So good. So here's what I'm going to do. I want to pause here and I want to speak to, I'm present. We have about 10 minutes left if we're going to finish in 90 minutes. I could talk about this all day long. We might have to do an 8-hour super show where I can type everyone, because literally everyone on the call raised their hand, which is so beautiful. And we will continue to figure out ways that we can serve all of you and get you through this typing process and get you what you need on your path. So just know that that's coming. And there actually is an opportunity right now for those of you who are feeling called to dive into this work in a very deep way. And so, just in alignment with the way my soul path is, we are leading off the offerings with the very deepest thing that we do, which is Magic School. And we are currently in the enrollment process for that. And so I just want to speak to it here because soul medicine paths are a big piece of what we do there. We'll probably spend the first 3 or 4 months of this 9-month program actually working deeply in the soul medicine paths, the core energetics of them, the unraveling of yours, the healing of the wounds that I was talking about, all of those boxes stacked against the door. That's the work that we're going to be doing for the entire 9 months, and then, really focusing in on the soul paths there at the beginning. And so I want to speak to the larger energetic of Magic School, and I'd like to just speak to your soul about this, right? So there's a way you can listen to this from the mind of like, I don't have the money, or I wouldn't, be ready, or whatever. But I would just invite your soul to listen. So what Magic School is there are so many of us waking up individually around the planet. We're waking up to our abilities, to our skills, to our knowingness that there's a peace, right? That there's a peace for us, for our purpose, for ourselves, and it exists, but it's on the other side of this veil. And we can almost like see through the veil, but no matter how we push and try to puncture it, we can't reach and we can't get through to what's over there. And so we sit in our isolated little pockets, fearing our craziness, fearing our aloneness, fearing our connection even, and wondering how we get from where we are to the thing that is calling so loudly to us. And so Magic School is a portal in the veil. It is an opening where those people these women can make their way through to the other side. And what's on the other side is really this level of waking up times 10, right? Times 100, times 1,000. It is knowing yourself on the deepest soul level, understanding who you are, putting the pieces in place, excavating the falseness, right? It's what I always say is it's kind of like, we've all been in our own little eggs, like we had to come have this human experience, and it doesn't come without its scars. So even as we wake up, we still have pieces of like membrane and shell stuck on us, and it's these old experiences that still seem really real. And so even as we're waking up to the reality of our soul, we still can't quite get unencumbered from this old stuff. And the reason for that is because we haven't been working at it at the level at which it exists, which is the subconscious, which is the level of energy. And so in Magic School, we pull out our dusty tools from under the workbench where we've hidden them, and we dust them off and we bring them out and remind ourselves how we use this. And so, it's this beautiful marriage of these two elements of using the universal language of the cosmos, which is energy. It is the thing that everything is built on. And so it is the biggest system, right? So I'm also a Reiki master, and, I do shamanistic things in the work that I do, but I'm not trained as a shaman. And what I find is that energy is bigger than any system, So shamans use energy, but it's a little more limited, right, because it has their certain traditions and forms around it. Reiki, the same. Energy, just at this level, is something that you can put under anything that you're part of. So you can use it in any profession you're already doing. You can use it in your mothering, your parenting, your relationships, all of that. But as we use them together, these two deepest things, the universal language of the cosmos, energy, and our soul, with our soul medicine paths, we put those two things together and you get a system that you cannot out-evolve, right? The two deepest things, there's never going to be anything more than that. So this is the guidebook. This is the way to actually live a fully evolved life. Will you be fully evolved in 9 months? Of course not. But you will be resourced in a way. So you'll have this, giant catapulted start on your path. You will have this beautiful skill so that you can continue working at these deeper levels. And then you have this whole and complete system of sisters who are in this higher level conversation. So that as you move out into the world doing your work and you hit a snag, you can say, hey, sisters, I seem to be in the lesson piece of my soul path. Who can take a read and tell me what's happening here? Who can help me unravel this? Right? And so my intention is to really build these whole and complete communities that can serve as a home base for you, as a highly trained wisdom panel for you to use and resource as you're out in the world doing your work. So if you are feeling the pull to make this happen for yourself, to exchange with the world in this bigger way, the way to do it is to email Viv and schedule a conversation for us. It's viv@jodyengland.com. Or if you're on the webcast, there's a button right there, and you can just click that to send the email. And we'll just talk about it. We'll read the energy of it together. We'll feel into your path. We'll feel into what's wanting to emerge, and we'll see if it makes sense. I think we've opened maybe 25 spots, and I know those will fill quickly. So, if you're feeling it, I know that you'll be scared, and you should feel scared because it is a big step to take. And if you're in touch with your soul, and if it's time, it's the only step to take. So just know that that's the opportunity, and if that's not it for you right now, know that there will be other less deep, less intensive, less diving off of the cliff into the abyss types of opportunities for you, and those will be happening as we progress early into next year. So I just want you to know that I'm here for you, and I am such a stand for you being on your path. And I want you to get this, and I want you to be free. So in whatever way that aligns for our walk together, I'm so excited for that. So I want to just say we are going to give away a session with Viv. So the session with Viv is an hour-long reading. So she will tell you your soul path, and then she'll actually do a session where she helps you clear some piece of it, so some piece that's in the way or what you'd like to do with it from there. So that's typically a $150 session, and I'm going to give that away at the end. So let's do in 5 more minutes. And before we do that, I'd like to just see if, because I don't think we have time to do a full other reading, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to put all the hands down. And then if you have a question, so not what is your soul path question, but like if you have a question about anything I've said so far, or if you're on the webcast, you can type a question in, and then Viv can communicate those to me. So give me a star two if you have a question that you would like to ask by way of clarifying what you've heard so far. All right, so I'm going to take this one. This is a Chicago phone number, ends in 9721. Hello.
Hey, Jody. It's Lorna.
Hi, Lorna. How are you?
Hi. I'm good.
Good.
So here is my question. If your life exhibits almost equal parts of a secondary soul medicine path, how do you do you have things that, and I don't know if anyone else is struggling with this, but as you went deeper into the heroine, and I know you told me that that's not mine, which is fine, but I got to say, it is, to me, it's neck and neck between that and, I don't even know what the other secondary, if it's the warrior or the great mother. So if other people are feeling that, which I certainly am too, is it just a matter of working one-on-one to really discern that, or are there things that we can do, on our own to drop more deeply into a discerning place when it feels like?
Yeah, so let me just clarify the question.
Choice.
So is the question if you can't discern what you actually are, what do you do next?
Right, like when it's so, like there's one that's obvious to me. The warrior is completely obvious.
Yeah.
And then from that point, almost every single thing you said about the heroine relates to me. I mean, even in terms of like eating disorders and things that are, very deeply a part of my struggle or were.
Mm-hmm.
But then also the great mother they feel like they feel both there. And so the question is, when there's this strong pull, like it's really, really difficult to discern.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I want to answer that on a couple levels. So the first one is that's where it gets tricky, right? Because we're, when we hear appropriate, well, in our taming, we all act appropriate, right? So for the 10 years that I was an insurance sales manager and wearing my power suits every day and driving my Lexus, I looked very appropriate, right? And I was not doing something that was authentic to who I was, and I hated my job. So all of that can exist. But it's like more about how do you relate to that. So the disconnect for you is heroines are sunshiny, and you are not sunshiny, my love. You are dark, wild queen. Yeah.
Okay.
And which is awesome. Which is so awesome.
Yeah.
And so heroines are more like they hate conflict, and they hate to be wrong, and they hate to have any kind of like dissonance in their field, and you thrive on that.
I
right?
see.
So a warrior is fed by a challenge and a struggle.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So it sounds like there's something in each of these that leads as the essence of it. I guess that's what I'm struggling with. So I don't know, and I don't know if other people are too, but could you possibly just help with what's the essence or the essential piece of each one.
I know, and that's where it's tricky because it depends on your hearing of it and your story of it. So if we just go back to the core energetic, so the core energetic of the heroine is cultivating an external facade for the benefit of others and leaving an internal void of the self. But you know who you are. You've always known who you are. Even when you do what you're not supposed to do, you know. Right?
Okay.
The heroine would literally be, they're a giant question mark inside. Like, I don't know, who do you want me to be? I can be that. Yeah, I'll do that. You know what I mean? So it's a subtle nuance. And then there's the larger answer, which is that, you know, at times our primary might be more obvious, and at other times our shadow might be more obvious. You do happen to be really close between Great Mother and Warrior, as am I. I'm almost 50-50. And other people, like mystics, sometimes are not paired with another one, or if they are, they almost chameleon the second one. So it's like mystic is sort of the main one for them because they're so above the life that they almost can like touch down in a few different ones at different times. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I would say is you don't have to worry too much about like having your whole thing mapped out. What I would say is for everyone, focus on your first one. So focus on like where is the biggest pain in your life and how are you relating to that pain? Like what's your story about that pain? When else have you seen that pattern happening in your life? And then use that string of pain and wound to match up to like what's the energetic of that wound, right?
And that's why you find your primary.
Yes. Well, and you know, at this point, I would say don't even worry if it's your primary because you can start working with one. So even if it's your secondary, you're still working an important piece. So yeah, and some people will more easily just relate to their secondary if that's what's up right now. You know, so it's really individual. It is really individual, but those core energetics are really the thing. If you get honest with yourself and try them on, you can say like, well, is that really how I relate to myself? You know, am I open to being honest and seeing what I don't want to see here? You know? Yeah. Yeah. Good.
Okay.
Love it.
Very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking that. It's a great question. All right. I'm tempted to just answer one more question. So if you still have a question, give me a star 2 if you'd like to ask one more thing. Okay, great. All right. So here's what we're going to do, because everybody's like, I know, but I got to go and I want to get to session. So we're going to go ahead and go that away. And so here's what we have. Let me see. Oh, that's so perfect. Okay, so we're going to give away the session. And this session, again, you're just going to email Viv directly, viv@jodyengland.com, and let her know that you won the free session with her. And you guys can get that scheduled to work on your soul medicine path. But the winner is Dante, if that's actually whose phone it is. And it's in Atlanta, Georgia, and the last 4 digits are 2537. And it just so happens, like this is the beauty of energy, right? I'm just about to say that, and who raises her hand? But Dante. So I'm just going to unmute your line so we can hear from you, love. Hi.
Hi. Dante
Hi.
is my husband. I'm Debbie.
Hi. How are you, Debbie?
Hi, Jody. Thank you. I'm physically I'm not so great, but this was a fabulous call. Thank you. And
You're
the
welcome.
question I had, how do I approach that biggest pain that I've dealt with? That's how I identify the wound? I mean, how do I approach? I'm sorry.
So more like what is your story about it, right? So just how I had the women who came on say like, okay, so I have this, ongoing thought or fear about, if I'm going to go to hell. And then, what I teach people to do is blah, blah, blah. So the story is, what does that mean to you? How do you hold that in your system? So you and I could have the same things happening, right? So let's say our health is our ongoing issue. And we could have a story about that. So your story is I can't really feel my body and it feels like I can't, trust it. And this would be my story. I can't trust my body. I'm always fighting with it. It never does what I fucking want it to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your story might be, I don't know, I just don't get the body and I try to do all these things, but I can't really, attach to it or get to it, right? And so
right.
all of us, and a heroine would have a body story that's, my body can never be perfect enough, it can never be skinny enough. So we could have a similar symptom, but it's like, what is your story about it that has you drop into what's your energetic? Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, good. And then you and Viv can play more with that when you get on your call
together.
Yay!
Thank you so much. It was a gift.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, so we are going to bring this session to a close. I have one more quote that I just want to share with you, and just to position ourselves as here we are on this path, getting this amazing possibility in front of us, right? So much to unpackage here, so much to feel into. For some of you, it may feel beautiful and full and like a grace and a miracle, and for others of you, it may feel like, wow, I just got handed a shit sandwich that I now have to unravel all of this at the soul level, and I don't even know how to do it, and I don't know what I am. So let's allow all of that to be okay, because it's all so good. And at the fundamental level, we are souls. We are souls. We're above all of this, and we're going to transcend this. And in the meantime, we're in this human space. And so this information is a navigational compass that we can use to make this journey what we came here to have it be. And so we can just allow ourselves to unpackage that piece by piece at whatever pace feels right for our own system, so that we can make the most of this beautiful experience called life. And so to end, this is a quote by Hermann Hesse. I have no right to call myself one who knows. I was one who seeks, and I still am, but I no longer seek in the stars or in books. I'm beginning to hear the teaching of my blood pulsing within me. My story isn't pleasant. It's not sweet and harmonious like the invented stories. It tastes of folly and bewilderment, of madness and dream, like the life of all people who no longer want to lie to themselves. So here's to truth and freedom and liberation for all of us. And I will look forward to being with you again next week on our regular platform for our regularly scheduled Wild Soul Medicine radio show on Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. Until then, my loves, be well.
We light a candle, our hearts awake. Illumination, for God's sake. A revelation, for God's sake. An inspiration, for God's sake. Illumination, for God's sake. For God's sake. For God's sake.